Welcome to the IVF Abroad podcast for people who are struggling with infertility and trying to conceive and who are facing more obstacles than options when it comes to having fertility testing or treatment in their home countries. Alongside other experts, I will share, educate and empower you on your journey and help you to learn more about going abroad for advanced fertility testing and treatments like IVF and egg donation. I'm Emma Haslam, your host, now mum of one, and the go-to expert in fertility treatment abroad. Since the birth of our son in 2018, I have made it my mission to make fertility treatment more informed, transparent, accessible, supported and affordable for more people. And I help people just like you to become unstuck, to find a best fit clinic that truly meets their needs and to have fertility treatment on their terms and timescales so they can achieve their dreams of growing their families. And I'm here now to help you too. Be sure to check out the free resources in the show notes for more help after listening to today's episode. This one thing could be preventing you from conceiving. And in this week's episode of the podcast with me, your host, Emma Haslam, I want to chat to you about being held back when we might be keeping ourselves stuck on our fertility journeys and how that can be the hidden block that actually is stopping us from conceiving because we're not letting ourselves get to that point. The purpose of today's episode is to really help you to reflect if you are feeling stuck, or maybe you're not consciously aware that you're feeling stuck, but things aren't happening now. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes things aren't happening because they're outside of our control. But sometimes it's because we are fearful, overwhelmed, stuck in indecision. And we are so in the weeds that we're just not taking that next natural step. Maybe we don't even know what the next flipping natural step is. So today's episode is a bit of a mindset, hopefully a strategy bridge for you with some suggested tips. I'm here to support you and to validate this is so normal to feel stuck, to feel overwhelmed. I think all of us at some point have felt like this, particularly when going through all the fertility stuff. And I want to gently guide you to try and just step back for a second and have a look at your situation and think, what's really keeping me stuck here? And is it myself? And that's really hard sometimes, but sometimes it is us. And I'm not saying that it's your fault or that it was my fault, but sometimes we just need to be aware of what we may be doing to ourselves. Maybe we're self-sabotaging a little bit and actually keeping ourselves stuck. So we're not able to move forward to the part where we've got the chance to maybe go ahead and conceive. And as I said, this is so normal. I know you'll be doing everything right, the eating, getting the tests done, taking your supplements, researching, but still, perhaps you're not actually moving forwards. And if that's you, then this episode is most definitely for you. Because so many people feel stuck when they're trying to conceive. There's so much information out there as well, isn't there? And it is literally so overwhelming. And I think we start to lose confidence in what we should be doing next. And so then sometimes we just don't do anything. And then that's not helping us either. But the reason that you might not be moving forwards may not be a medical block. I mean, it might be, literally. Often it's an emotional one or one of overwhelm. Or maybe it's a strategic one, actually. You just don't know what that next natural step is. Now, first up, I apologise for my dulcet tones this week. I flew back from going to visit a clinic abroad in Spain, and I have caught the lurgy. I feel fine, but I sound disgusting. But alas, I didn't want to not come on and record the podcast for you. So I do apologise. Hopefully I can crop out edit out any coughs and sneezes. But first up, I want you to ask yourself, what's keeping you stuck? And you might not know the answer to that, but I want you to take some time during this episode to have a think. Are you stuck? Do you know what's keeping you stuck? Stuck usually comes from one of two places, or sometimes it's a mixture of both. So you've got fear-based stuckness. Maybe you're fearful of getting it wrong. Maybe you're fearful of wasting money or wasting time. But actually, the irony of that is sometimes we then end up wasting more money or time. Fear of what that next step might mean. You know, it's scary thinking about having fertility treatment. And I think sometimes fear of not knowing all the steps, which I don't think is necessarily possible, certainly not without some help. But sometimes the lack of understanding of exactly what's going to happen and when, can keep us stuck, especially if we're thinking about maybe going abroad. Fear of the fear. So the worry may be of, particularly if you're going to go abroad or you're considering going abroad, the worry of that, like about safety and is that going to be all right? And the travelling and, you know, how we're going to get medication through the airport and how is it all going to work? You know, that can be something that keeps us stuck. Maybe it's the fear that actually it's too late or that it's not going to work. These fears, by the way, are completely normal. They are just your brain's way of trying to protect you during or after painful experiences. But let me tell you that being in limbo, you probably already know this, being in limbo is actually the worst part, or it was for me, because you're just stuck and nothing's happening. Everybody else's life is going on around you and you're just stuck. The other stuckness is clarity-based stuckness. Too many choices, too much research, too much noise, not enough direction, or not enough direction in the right places, misinformation, not knowing which clinic, what tests, where to start, when to start, how long things take. And when you don't have a clear plan, it's really natural to freeze. And sometimes it just feels easier just to kind of put it to the back of your mind and think, oh, think about this. Like, we're in October now. I know lots of people thinking, oh, let's wait till after Christmas. But actually, if you could get some clarity, you could start taking steps now so that after Christmas, you're ready. You know, Christmas is still, I can't believe I mentioned the C word, but it must be at least 10 weeks away now from Christmas. A lot can happen and change in 10 weeks' time so that you're ready for the new year. But this is what we do. We get so stuck and then so in our own way that we just freeze. And that's natural. And I think a lot of people have a combination of fear and clarity-based stuckness. And this isn't helpful because this just keeps us in limbo. And we're in this emotional state. It can impact our mental health, can impact us physically, and it can be really hard then to get out of feeling stuck. You know, every month that goes past, another cycle might pass without progress, and then just this emotional weight gets heavier and heavier. But I just want you to take a second to think to yourself, what's keeping me stuck? You know, because you have to plan your way out of it. You can't think your way out of it. You have to plan. And sometimes it's just a really small micro step that you need to take. And then the next step, and then the next step, and then the path becomes clear. But stuck in indecision or fear does not get us anywhere. So I need you to think about, what do you need in order to be able to take that next step? If you don't know what that next step is, what do you need to get the clarity to take your next step? What do you need to understand or reduce the fear to take your next step? Because actually, the absence of fear here is not the goal. The absence of fear is not the goal. I don't know who said that once, but somebody said that. I didn't make that up. And it's a great saying, because actually lots of things that we do in life are scary, but it doesn't mean to say that they're not the right thing to do. They're just big things. often big things that we've not done before. So of course it feels scary. Our brain's trying to keep us safe. But it doesn't mean to say that it's a bad idea. And sometimes we don't actually need to do any more research. We don't need any more opinions. You need a clear plan and the right support. You need to take one step at a time and the path will unfold. And you need to do your due diligence and you need to make sure you're being safe. Yes, of course you do. But it's looking at what's keeping me stuck or what's keeping us stuck. Is it fear? Is it that actually you need to get clarity? Is it both? And just being self-aware and understanding what it is and then working out, well, what would help to break through this particular problem? Not 10 steps ahead, this particular problem to be able to move forward. Because honestly, clarity on one step will bring you confidence. Clarity on one step opens up the next step. And then trusting yourself that you will know what to do and why and when. And then fear loses that grip. So just step back and assess, where are you now? I'm not talking medically, but I'm talking in terms of that clarity piece, that fear-based piece, and identify like one action, one micro step maybe that's going to create some movement, that's going to move you forwards, whatever that might be. So it might be reviewing clinic options. It might be that you need to get some tests done. It might be that you need to learn more about treatment abroad. It might be that you need some help from someone like myself. There are options, but just being self-aware and working out what the problem is will then help you to work out what just the very next step might be. Because honestly, feeling stuck should not be a sign to give up with perhaps the idea of going abroad, but it's a sign that something needs to change. And I've been there, so I say this with love and, I don't want you to waste a lot of time like I did going around in circles, stuck in limbo when actually I could have taken the bull by the horns much sooner. And also, nobody said to me, like I'm trying to do with you, just stop for a second and think about this and, what's keeping you stuck. And had I have done that, I might have been like, okay, I know what's keeping me stuck. I'm stuck on an NHS waitlist for treatment that's never coming. And being in limbo was truly, for me, from the whole journey, the worst bit. So I just want you to check in with yourself. But also, sometimes I think we think we've got to have everything figured out and we've got to understand and know everything now. You don't. What is the next step? And then the next step. And I promise you, the path will unfold. And if you need help, I will pop my email address in the show notes. You can come and find me on Instagram at Your IVF Abroad. I offer services where I can help you with this. I can help you work out what your next steps are going to be. For some of you, you won't know if you want to go abroad or not. That's something I can help you with. Work out whether or not it's right for you. I've also got a free training if you've not watched that. That will give you loads of information, correct information about going abroad and how it works. I'm going to link that for you below as well. But just assess where you are. And I want to reassure you that this is so normal, I promise. Awful, I know, but normal. And you can move past this. You just need a plan, and that plan comes from those micro steps. I'm going to say again, remember, absence of fear is not the goal. You can do this. It feels much harder thinking about going abroad because you haven't done it before, potentially. And if you've never had fertility treatment before as well, then oh my gosh, that is a lot, isn't it? I mean, I know it's not the same, but you think about when you start a new job, how overwhelming is that? And your brain feels like it's never going to get there. You're never going to know what you're doing. A few months down the line, you're like, oh, yeah, I get it now. And then a few more months, and perhaps it feels even easy in some ways. And I know that it's different, but, I tell you what is hard, choosing a clinic locally to you just because they're in the same country and they're half an hour away. If that's not the right fertility clinic for you, I can assure you that will not feel easy when your treatment doesn't work, because you need to get the right clinic for your needs. And by going abroad, it's going to give you more options, perhaps more speed as well. And just because it feels scary does not mean that it's the wrong decision for you. And there's things that can be put in place. Of course, you need to do your due diligence. Things need to be safe. But, all of these things are possible but you will probably still feel a bit scared because that is natural and it's normal. And I think to think that you're going to feel any other way would be lying to you. There are things that you can do to make yourself feel less scared by being more prepared, by getting support externally from someone like myself if you can. But just to remind you that the fear will be there. But actually, sometimes just breaking it down into those little tiny steps are all you need to do, and trying to not figure everything out 10, 15, 20 steps ahead and just thinking, right, what is the next thing? So, I've been there. I get it. I've helped hundreds of people feeling stuck move forwards. And I hope that this episode has helped you too, just to take stock for a second and know that, as I said, this is very, very normal. But in the hope that this just gives you the permission slip and the self-awareness to just check in and think, actually, yeah, do you know what? I've got this. There is something that I can do or we can do. Even in the situations that feel the most hopeless, there's always something that can be done to move you in the right direction and to help you to feel less stuck. Until next week, take care. Bye. If you are facing more obstacles than options and want to learn more about how to overcome your fertility testing and treatment challenges in your home country so that you too can fast track to growing your family and on your terms, then check out my free training at yourivfabroad.co.uk/free masterclass. Don't forget to rate and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and so that I can reach and help more people. Thanks for listening.